Good evening, everyone. It's Dr. Malika, and it is Transformation Tuesday for this week for November the 15th, 2016. And I'm still dealing with the election results and the aftermath of that and the things that people are experiencing. I was fortunate enough to be a panelist on a teleconference call on yesterday that allowed me to speak with community leaders, principals, pastors, those who are working directly with at the grassroots level with people about this election and their response to that. And I shared some information and some tips that I thought would be very helpful to share with you this week for Transformation Tuesday. I know that we've been talking about certain things, specifically about emotional resilience and things of that nature, but I feel like we have to be relevant in what we're talking about. And the reality is, this election is impacting all of our lives in some kind of way. And so I wanted to do my part to be able to give you information that will help you along the way with this process and hopefully make you more resilient when you're dealing with this. Um, One of the things that I started off with and the foundation of what I talked about was talking about the two dynamics that we have working. So, the two dynamics that we have working is we have grief and we also have trauma. Grief is a psycho emotional response to some type of loss, and that can be a job, that can be a relationship, that can be income, that can be a home, that can be an actual person. Obviously, we know grief in the more literal sense of losing a person, but loss can be lost in a variety of different ways. And however you process this particular election, you may be dealing with some type of loss, whether it's the candidate that you personally backed and supported, or just the ideals attached to what you feel the results of this election mean. And so when we're looking at grieving and that process, we can look at it from the model of the 5 stages of grief, which we know is Elizabeth Kubler-Ross's model that she used to talk about how we go through the process of grieving. The first stage that we have is denial. Very classic way of us processing the information. It is a defense mechanism. It's a way for us to, at our own pace, deal with the information that we just received. Many of us are in very much denial about the fact that Donald Trump actually won the election. And so many of us are not processing and dealing with this in a rational way. I think that's the best way to say it, because when we're in our emotions, it is very irrational. And so a lot of us are just dealing with that process of, we're denying that this has actually occurred. We're saying that he's not the president elect. He's not my president elect. When he's elected, he will not be my president. That's the denial stage that a lot of people are in. That's usually the first place we go. It's an easy place because it stops us from having to actively process the information that we receive that is too distressing for our psyche to deal with. The next thing that we're dealing with is, in the stages, we're dealing with anger. Um, we can see that in a lot of the protesting that is going on across the country, that people are angry about the results, whether they're protesting or taking it out on one another. They're angry and they're saying that this should not have happened. It's your fault that it happened. A wide variety of things are happening in relationship to anger, but we see it manifesting all across our country. And so the reality is that anger can be a very destructive emotion. It doesn't have higher level thinking attached to it. And so when you flow in anger, you're not going to be a rational person. And so the responses that you get, the behavior that you get, is going to be very irrational. We know that the next stage is bargaining. Many of us are going through our processes of trying to make deals emotionally with coming to terms with this, getting our hopes up of some possibility that the election results will change when the Electoral College votes. A lot of us are in that bargaining stage, feeling that we'll be comfortable and feel better if this could happen. If God, if you could let this happen, then I'll do this. And so many of us are in that place where we're bargaining. The next stage is depression. Some people may have gotten to that stage already. Some of them may have felt this during the whole election cycle just because of how long the process was. You're talking about almost 2 years of us hearing this information from candidates who have been running for president, the whole process and possibility of Donald Trump becoming the president of the United States. All of these things were things that we've been processing for a long period of time. And so some people could have started going through these stages of grief actually prior to the actual election occurring on November the 8th. The final stage of the stages of grief is acceptance. And so one of the things I shared on the call is that just because we accept something doesn't mean we're in an emotionally healthy place. We can accept, okay, this has occurred, this is reality, this is what it is, but it can often numb us out. It can make us to the point where we are not able to even communicate effectively with people because, yes, we realize that this is real, but we don't have any kind of affect attached to this particular thing that we've had to process. And so the grieving stage part of this, a lot of us are in and we're going through. It may be something that will continue on for a great period of time. We have to realize that this is not an overnight process. Just because the election was a week ago does not necessarily mean that everybody's over it and they've moved on. And so you have to take that into account when you're interacting with people. The second portion of what I shared, and I want to also share this with you, is that we're also dealing with trauma. And so a trauma is anything that happens that is distressing and it causes a stress response to occur in the person because it's just psychologically overwhelming and they can't deal with it. Many people are dealing with that on a large scale across our country and even across the world. And so what we're looking at is something similar to a collective or historical trauma where an entire group of people are experiencing similar feelings behind a certain thing that has occurred. I use the example of the fact that for African Americans, slavery was an event that occurred that caused collective trauma for the entire demographic. And so even though many of us did not experience slavery, we do still have stress responses related to certain things because that trauma response and that stress is passed down from generation to generation. Jewish Americans or people that are Jewish, that have Jewish descent from the Holocaust, they also have similar things occurring. And so with collective traumas, we have to look at the fact that we will have physiological symptoms that are happening directly related to the stress or trauma that we went through. Some of the things you will be feeling, you will have stomach issues, you will have bowel issues, you will have headaches. You will find that your body is tense and you have aching. You will find chronic pain occurring from this. What is happening is your body is going into its defense process, the fight or flight, which is an automatic process that happens in our body. Our autonomic system, and not to get too technical, is the part of our body that just does things automatically without it having to be activated or told to do something. If it gets the psychological response saying, I'm in danger, or I'm fearful, then it will go into this. And so what happens when we are distressed is that our body will automatically go into that process. And if we don't have the skills and techniques to equip ourselves to be able to turn that off, so turn off the sympathetic system and the parasympathetic system kicks in to counteract and balances back out to a normal level, then we'll continue to be in that state. What happens when we're stressed is we stay in a state where cortisol is continually being produced, and that's very stressful for the body, and it causes a lot of physical symptoms to occur to the point where even your blood sugar can raise. You can have issues with your joints and muscles. You can have issues with your blood pressure. There's a lot of things that can result from being in this continual stressed out condition. So it's very important that we learn coping techniques that will help us. And so that was the next segue into what I went to when I provided this information, is what things can we do to help us with coping with what is happening. One of the tips, and I've given this tip before when we were talking about Black Lives Matters and the videos that we've been seeing of the violence against unarmed people in the communities from police officers, is to unplug from social media. It's challenging because a lot of us, including myself, we use social media as our means of generating revenue, as our means connecting with our base that we service, our means of getting information, and our means of connecting with loved ones or people that don't necessarily live where we live. The challenge with that is that social media is a hotbed for misinformation. And so you don't want to continually keep feeding yourself bad information during this healing process, because by doing so, you're not allowing yourself to fully emotionally recover from the events that we've been experiencing over the past 18 months. So find a way to be strategic with your use of social media. You may still need to use it, but you can program the things that you need to do to connect to the audience that you are responsible for, your demographic. You can find ways to filter what information you're actually getting when you're on social media. Turn off alerts so that your phones and devices are not constantly giving you updates of certain information. I will also apply this to newspapers and news outlets. I know for me, I still read newspapers and I still get information from news sites. I have the apps even on my phone for some of these media outlets. Turn those alerts off so you're not directly getting that information. And that would be a way for you to allow yourself to emotionally decompress from all of this inundated thing that we've been in for the last 18 months. We've been overwhelmed with information. Another tip that I gave is learning how to take care of yourself. Taking care of yourself is probably the greatest thing that you can do for yourself. Taking care of yourself means eating right. Taking care of yourself means making sure you're hydrated. Taking care of yourself means that you're moving and you're getting some type of physical activity going on. Making sure that when you're at work, you're taking your actual breaks. If you have a job where breaks are not necessarily built into what you do, you don't sit at a desk or necessarily have scheduled break time, making sure that you actually get breaks and take time off is really important. You need to step away from your day. You need to be able to step away from what you're doing and allow yourself to rest and relax. Also, don't critical think. A lot of us who are intellectuals, or a lot of us who are skilled in a particular profession that requires us to focus and process information constantly, have a hard time not critical thinking. And so that is a way for you to take care of yourself. Find nothing exercises, nothing activities to do that doesn't make you go into that critical thinking mode, and give your brain a little bit of a break so that it can decompress and rest and take a little nap before you continue your day. Making sure that you're doing this every day is very important. Another tip that I gave, because we're almost out of time, so I won't be able to give all of the tips, is making sure that you are engaging in solution-focused activity. And by saying that, I mean activities that have solutions at the end, that are focusing on providing a solution for something, but not about you. Go out and do something to help another person get through whatever particular situation they're in. Volunteer at the YMCA, volunteer at Red Cross, volunteer at your church, whatever it may be, a homeless shelter. Go out and help someone else reach a solution for their situation. By doing that, you take the focus off yourself. You take your focus off of the emotions you've been sitting in. You take the focus off this election, all the stuff that happened with it. You take your focus even off the future and what you think is possibly going to be the future going forward under the new president, and you put your energy into something that can help make another person's life better. By doing that, it allows you to get the joy of helping another person. And there's no greater joy than being able to help a person that's in a bad situation or in a less fortunate situation. You'll find that that energy, that positivity can work wonders for you. So we're out of time. Our 15 minutes always goes really quickly. If you're interested in getting more detailed information for what I provided on the call, I will be sending this information out to those who are a part of my newsletter listserv. So if you want to get in on that, you can go to my website. It's Malaika, Malaika, mbrown.com. And there's a place for you to sign up to get the newsletter, and you'll be included on the listserv to receive this information. You can also go to my Facebook page. It's Dr. Malaika Speaks, and there's a place for you to click where it says join us. If you click there, that is another place for you to get on the list and get this information. Old-fashioned way, you can email me if you like to, if we call that old-fashioned nowadays. And the email address is info, I-N-F-O, at MalaikaMBrown.com. And that is another way for you to submit the information that you would like for you to get on the list to get this information. I just want to remind you, take care of yourself, take care of the people that you love, get out and do something that is positive for another person. and start to help yourself to heal emotionally from what is happening with this election. I hope that this will be something that will be beneficial, that you can apply not only to this, the aftermath of this particular election, but anytime you have stressful events happen in your life, so that you can get to a place that's healthy emotionally, processing what you're dealing with, and move towards getting into a better space. Until next week, when we meet again, same time, 7 p.m. Pacific Standard Time here on Facebook. Also on YouTube. The YouTube channel is called Transformation TV with Dr. Malaika. You can also check that out. I am Dr. Malaika Brown, and it was awesome speaking with you, and I hope to hear from you guys soon. Have a great rest of your week.